Thanks for joining us this evening for an introduction to your students' educators for quarters 2 and 4. It seems so long ago that we got together for back to school night in August to introduce you to your students' educators for quarters 1 and 3. And when we got together back in August, I imagined that there was a possibility that for the start of quarter 2, we would be back on Ellis Street. The pandemic has continued and that wasn't possible. As recently as last week, I was hoping we might return to Ellis Street just after winter break for the start of quarter 3. But Tuesday's decision by Mayor Breed and the San Francisco Department of Public Health to pause the reopening of high schools and to roll back reopening plans in other sectors puts in question our January return dates. San Francisco Department of Public Health is trying this indefinite pause in order to turn down the steep upward trend in COVID-19 cases. That's why the pause is in effect indefinitely. Now, despite the pause, San Francisco Department of Public Health is still committed to its site visit at JCHS next week, and that way JCHS will be queued up to return to in-person learning on Ellis Street shortly after the pause is lifted. For our part, we continue actively planning and preparing for students to return to Ellis Street for in-person learning and hope that that can be sometime in January. Now, all of this distressing disruption and constant changing is tough. It's tough for your students. It's tough for you, and it's tough for all of us at JCHS. We wish it were otherwise. And yet, well, perhaps we can draw a valuable lesson from this week's Torah portion, Chaye Sarah. The parsha begins by telling us how old Sarah was when she died. She was 127. And speaking of those years, the 11th century commentator Rashi says, Kulan shevin l'tova. All of her years were equally good. Now, on the surface, that seems a very odd thing to say about a matriarch who suffered so much heartbreak and betrayal and disappointment, along with years of infertility and famine. How could those years all be equally good? How could each of those years be on par for goodness with years of sacred partnership, with motherhood, with companionship and joy? How? Because Sarah drew from her inner reservoir of resilience, from her faith, from her inner joy. She confronted adversity with resilience. She confronted desperation with hope. She confronted sadness with joy. Sarah did not need external events to go just as she wished in order for her year to be good. Her years were good because of what she brought to them, not what they gave her. And that's one of the challenges of this pandemic, to meet the distressing disruption and constant changing with inner resilience, with hope, and even joy. Like the biblical Sarah, each of us can find goodness every day, even in the shadow of the pandemic. To see the good of our lives, even especially at these difficult moments. I'm so proud of our students and educators for discovering the good that comes from this situation in their exchanges with each other over Zoom, in the conversations that they have, challenging, wondering, bringing curiosity. Thank you for inspiring your students to bring so much of themselves to their learning, even at a distance. Thank you for supporting our educators in all that they do to bring learning and growth to your students, even at a distance. Thanks for being here this evening. Hope you learn a lot about your students, educators, and what they're learning together. And to introduce you to that part of the evening, I welcome my colleague, my partner, our assistant head of school, Michael Brody. Michael?
Thanks, Howard. I want to take this time to send another special thanks to all members of the professional community for all of the work they have put in to helping us prepare our plan to reopen school. It has been an above and beyond effort, and we're all looking forward to the day when we can all be back on campus together. In terms of other things I'm looking forward to, please mark your calendar for the next round of family teacher conferences, which happen December 3rd in the evening and December 4th during the school day. In terms of tonight, please follow the schedule that you received in an email for your students' classes tonight. And please do your best to be on time for these classes. We have them scheduled back to back, and we need to run them right on schedule to make sure everybody can be where they need to be. Also, tonight is not a night to check in with teachers about your specific student. If you have a question about your student and how they're doing in classes, please reach out to the teachers individually and set up some time during their office hours to meet. A block starts at 7:05, so don't be late.